No, we did eat. Anybody out there eating spaghetti right now? There's your spaghetti models,
If it looks
folks.
like this, you're in trouble.
Uh, so let's look. We've got some very educated viewers out there. E Torres wants to see the German icon model. Now, what's interesting about the German icon model? It's a model that gets a lot of shout out love from our
Yeah.
chief meteorologist Jeff Bear Ardelli. It has become a more increasingly popular model, the more dependent model. So, what do you got, Eric, for the
Yeah, I
German?
mean, Icon was pretty good with Ian, and I've noticed over the past 3 years, I've looked at it in the past, but I haven't really, I take it with a grain of salt until it starts performing, and it's really been pretty good. The German model has been south of the bay, I think, ever since model runs started, pretty close to it, at least for the last 2.5 days or so. The Icon slash German model, which is the yellow on your screen, has been, a lot it's been more consistent. It was a little bit further to the south, it was northern Sarasota County, but boy, it hasn't really shifted much compared to the GFS model, which again was, along the Nature Coast 48 hours ago. Yesterday, it was Pasco County, and now, it's right along the track, but the Icon model, it just really hasn't deviated, and it's very, very, very close to the NHC track right now.
You yeah, this I I thought we've seen almost all the types of different questions so we could get. Here's a question I haven't seen before.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yep.
Bill says hashtag HJB. What are the chances of Milton hitting Milton? As in Milton hitting Milton, Florida. And yes, there is a Milton, Florida.
I've
You
heard
want
of
to know?
Milton,
You want to know
Florida.
where it is?
Yeah.
All right. So can you bring up a map? Let me point you in the right direction, and we can give a
Uh,
very, very significant answer here, an emphatic answer to Bill. So I'm going to show everybody where
let's see
Milton,
where we're at
Florida is
here.
located, and I'll just kind of point you in the right direction, Eric. You're going north,
Okay,
way north.
so, I can't let me zoom in here.
Because I'll tell you what,
So we're gonna go right around here.
what I'm getting at. It might take Eric a lot of work. I can answer this very, very quickly.
Okay,
If you're
further north?
north,
Further north?
we're going to Milton, Florida. North, west, west, west,
Oh my gosh.
west, west. Okay,
Pensacola?
there's basically northeast of Pensacola. Zoom in.
Yeah, it's probably not
It's
gonna
not going to show
populate.
maps, but
No,
basically right there. No, you're close. You're actually zoom in again. But right there, kind of on the left,
oh boy.
is Milton, Florida. And in Milton, Florida, you can watch on your lawn chairs with a drink in your hand, and you don't have to worry at all
Yeah,
about
no,
Hurricane Milton.
no, not at all. Wow.
I did not know there was a Milton, Florida. Now I know.
I've heard of Milton, Florida, but I had no idea where it was at.
Yep, there you go.
No.
Okay. Next up in the queue, we're gonna go to Miraless. On Facebook Live. Temple Terrace, first floor brick apartment building. 1.3 miles from Hillsborough River. I love all the specifics here. This is great.
Yeah, yeah.
Temple Terrace, first floor brick apartment, 1.3 miles from Hillsborough River, south of Fowler, between Whiteway, Bush Boulevard, east of 56th Street. My God, I mean,
I think there's a really good diner there that I like to go to.
Really?
Pretty close to it.
Okay.
Well, it's not on 56. I think it's closer to Nebraska, I believe, is there. Well, anyway, or maybe 41. Either way, looks like you're going to be far enough away from any surge. Although, again, with this, moving south of you, you're not going to worry about the surge. The one thing I'm concerned about, again, north of the storm is the rainfall amounts of up to 12 inches of rain in a short period of time. So if you're in a low-lying area that typically floods even on a rainy season day, regardless if you're in Temple Terrace or you're somewhere else north of the track, uh, there's going to be some flooding. There's going to be inland flooding in low-lying areas. And if you have a vehicle that, sometimes is on the borderline of, the water's up to the tires here and there, when it rains hard on a rainy season day, you might want to consider moving the vehicle. Obviously, the wind is going to be a huge issue too. Hurricane force wind 80, 90 miles an hour, gusting over 100, given the current track right now.
I'm just getting a lot of updates here on my phone. We've got Ozan. So here's an example of a comment. We wish I had a little bit more specifics.
Right.
But I guess near Sarasota is good. Should I evacuate if I live in Manatee County near Sarasota? even though I'm not in an evacuation zone. I, Ozan and others, I, I believe the words that came out from the NHC.
Yeah.
And that is that today is the day to evacuate. If you want to evacuate, look, if you're in a mandatory evacuation zone, evacuate. If you are outside of a mandatory evacuation zone, but you are concerned about you, your family, your pets, your property, um, and basically your livelihood in general, and you want to evacuate, you're on the road 3 hours ago. To tell you the truth, you want to be
Or
getting
yesterday.
out. Yeah, you want to be getting out like right now. Today is really the last day to confidently make your way out of the cone. I know I have family that is traveling out of the cone and just hit a massive southbound traffic backup near Alligator Alley. Traffic is insane down
Yeah.
there, but people are making it through. They're making it down to Miami, Fort Lauderdale, some other areas, Boca. Um, you can still get out of the area north or south, but you need to be on the road,
Yeah,
Eric.
and again, we don't know if you're in a mobile home or a smaller structure that will not be able to withstand a Cat 3 or even a Cat 1 hurricane. If your house is safe and you're well away from any water that storm surge could affect, if you're not in a low-lying area with potentially 8 to 10 inches of rain or more, and your house is hurricane resistant to a Cat 3, then you could stay. But it really all depends on exactly where you are and what kind of building that you're going to be living in.
All right. So we're going to take these final two questions for the hashtags for now. We got video questions coming in via WFLA.com/report it. Um, and I think we've made improvements. We're getting to the bottom of some of the glitches that we've had with our video questions. Let's go to Zachary first. Hashtag HAB. There isn't really discussion of impacts on the east side of the state. It will still likely be a Cat 2 once it hits water again. Yeah, Cat 2 weakening to a Cat 1. Also, too, we'll just throw Brandon on here back to back. Hashtags for us both. I'm from California, house sitting with no hurricane experience. Can you let me know how Stewart will be affected? Now, Stewart is on the east coast of Florida,
Right,
so we
right.
can,
A little bit further south.
tackle
Uh,
these.
Southern and so it's funny. One of my best friends from elementary school, Facebook came in existence, and all of a sudden, people you went to school with started finding you on Facebook. Is really cool. And my best friend from elementary school found me on Facebook about 12 years ago and said, "Hey, you live in Fort Myers. I have a house in Stewart. Come visit." So I went to Stewart. It was a really nice area. So yeah, I know where it is. It is along the coast. You're on the south side of the storm, so you're not going to deal with any storm surge, tropical storm force wind at best. But don't get me wrong. We talked a lot about the East Coast. We talked about Titusville. We talked about Orlando. We talked about Vero Beach a lot, Cocoa Beach, Jacksonville. If you live north of the track, so north of Cape Canaveral area, there is potential for storm surge. There's potential for, I would say, 3 to 5 feet, maybe even up toward Savannah, Georgia. Okay. As far as the rain goes, if you're north of the track, if you're north of Cape Canaveral, Titusville, Daytona Beach area, then you're going to get a lot of rain out of this. Again, 8 to 12 inches possible. So this will be moving quickly. It will likely be at least a Category 1 storm, maybe a Cat 2. But again, this is a weakening storm. So a weakening storm hitting land typically weakens a lot faster than a strengthening storm like Helene. That took a long time to weaken. It was really intensifying as it hit land. This is going to do the exact opposite. It's going to be weakening as it hits land. So the land interaction will cause us to weaken a lot faster than Helene, even though it's moving quicker. So I would say a high-end Cat 1 storm at best on the East Coast.
All right. Report it. Let's get to the video questions that are coming in. You can send in a selfie video. Show and tell is great, by the way. You can show us where you're joining us from, ask questions about your location on the map, and we'll do our very best to answer as many of these questions live. Eric, we've gotten some feedback on how we do reported segments. We'll try to be as concise as possible with them and keep the kind of line of questions moving, if that sounds good to you.
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
Always.
All right, so first up in the reported queue is Christopher. He is joining us from Bradenton. Let's listen in to Christopher again from Bradenton.
We're in a concrete house right behind Manatee High in Bradenton, Florida. How do you think the storm surge is going to be? We're like 5 miles from the bay.
All right, Christopher, thanks for the video. What do you got?
Yeah, so 5 miles from the bay, even if you did get the brunt of the storm surge, the surge, in my opinion, anywhere is not getting more than a mile. I don't even think it's going to get to 3/4 of a mile, half a mile maybe. But if you're more than a mile away, I wouldn't worry about storm surge. Now, you've got the Manatee River. You've got all sorts of rivers that flow from the bay to the east, right? So if you are along one of those rivers and there was storm surge, then chances are if you were within a 1/4 mile away from one of those rivers, you may get storm surge. But with the track right now, it looks like the center of this is going to move pretty close to Bradenton. And it looks like the eye would move pretty much right over Bradenton. Now, if this does move slightly to the south, that would put you in the northern eye wall, which would be a lot of rain. So you're 5 miles away. I wouldn't, obviously worry about storm surge, but if you're in a low-lying area, and I need to stress this more, low-lying areas are really going to flood, okay, with rainfall, not storm surge, but rainfall. The northern side of this storm, JB, has got a lot of rain to it. We're talking a foot or even more. I would be surprised if some places got even 14, 16 inches. It's not going to be like Ian 20 to 24 because it's not expected to move that slow. Okay. It's going to move a lot quicker. So right now, the rainfall totals are an estimate of about 8 to 12 inches of rain. So if you are in a low-lying area, chances are if you flood on a rainy season day, you're definitely going to flood in this.
All right. Thank you to Christopher from Bradenton. Next, we've got Trevor. Trevor is joining us from Oldsmar. Let's listen in.
Hey, Eric and JB. It's Trevor again from yesterday. Quick question. So, our boss at work just told us that we need to work tomorrow from 6 a.m. to noon. We work in Pinellas Park. A lot of us are really not happy about that. Is it really a good idea for us to be out tomorrow, or should we tell them, hey, sorry, we're just not coming in?
This is Trevor asking for a doctor's note. I mean, that's basically what he's saying. No, Trevor, in all seriousness,
so let's look at, he's going to be fine because this storm has really slowed down, so to speak, right? It's taken its good old time getting here. So here's 8 o'clock and these are wind gusts and you're looking at wind gusts up to 25. You get to noon and you're at wind gust up to about 30 and that's it, right? And it's time to go home. Depending on where you live now, it's 1 o'clock and really we're still right around the 30 mile per hour wind gust up to 2. I mean, I think you'd be safe through noontime in Pinellas County. I mean, I don't know what he does. I don't know if he's
that's what
a driver, if he's working outside.
This is industry dependent.
Yeah, if he only has to drive home 5 minutes, well, that's a big difference. Sure, you're fine. If you have an hour commute or if you're outside the whole time,
To Trevor and to Trevor's boss, I would just say, look, please err on the side of caution. Be as safe as possible. Do not push it up until the very last moment. There could be complications. What if there's an employee that was working up until the very last moment, and then on the way home, there's a little bit of wind and pushes a nail onto the road, and all of a sudden that person has a flat tire.
Yeah, they're stuck.
Right. I mean, you want everyone to have ample time to be able to get home. I don't think that, pushing it right up until, the storm's arrival is best practice, but that's up for a business owner. And really, it's like I said, number one thing, it's industry dependent.
Right,
so
right.
Certain businesses are going to have to stay open for as long as possible, or even through the storm. Others, it's better to err on the side of caution and just make sure that you're closing with plenty of time for your employees to get home safely and get prepared for the storm.
So I went to one of my favorite 24-hour diners over in Clearwater. And, I had asked them, I said, so when are you guys closing? They said, oh, we're not closing. I said, you're going to stay open through the storm? You know, it's like, I think even Waffle House is going to close. And everybody that knows,
the Waffle House.
everybody that knows Waffle House,
House.
if Waffle House closes, you know there's some serious bleep going on,
no,
right?
that's a big deal.
And this
online.
diner supposedly isn't closing. And I said, listen, you know, of course, the safety part of me said, do you have hurricane-proof windows? Because the whole exterior is all windows. Well, we don't know. I'm like, you need to convince your boss that, you know, you're going to lose power and it's not a good idea, whether they listen or not, whatever. It's not a good idea to keep any business open. And I have 3 o'clock on here on purpose because it looks like once you start getting into that 2 to 3 o'clock hour, that's when we start to get those tropical storm force wind gusts, right? 39 or more. And I think that's when the latest the bridges will start closing, right? So if this guy is working till noon, and maybe he has a commute to Tampa, Brandon, who
Right.
knows where, you don't know how traffic's going to be. You don't know if last minute people are going to be evacuating, you know, we just don't know exactly how far you have to go from work to home. If
Yeah.
it's 5 minutes, I'd say, okay, 12 o'clock, you're fine. You see what I mean? But if it's an hour, if it's Polk County, it's a little different.
I did note, and I want to make a change here. But first, I saw some comments coming in, and Michelle, I see your comments. We're going to change that. Look, we came up with the wobble tracker. Jeff did, you know, a couple of years ago, I believe. What year was that, Jeff? When he came with wobble tracker? 2022,
Ian,
21, 22, somewhere in that range.
yeah,
We need the
22.
Waffle House tracker.
Yeah,
we need a
we
map
do.
of Waffle Houses, and that will show us when they're closing.
Yeah.
You know, like green light on, red light off. And
Right.
if we see the Waffle Houses closing, that's a weather indicator of some kind. That no, I obviously I'm playing around, but there are people that are like, man, if Waffle House closes, we know we are in for something.
Yeah, that's how it is in Florida. It's like if you see Jim Cantori, you know you're in for something. If you see a Waffle House close, you know you're in for something. From what I heard, Waffle Houses are actually built to be safe places during hurricanes, is what I've heard.
I'm sorry, say it again.
I heard from somebody that worked there a while ago that Waffle Houses are built to withstand hurricane conditions and that they are safe places. I can't confirm that 100%. It's just hearsay, but it's very interesting if that's true.
I am not going to, you know, give people advice to shelter at their local Waffle House, but if you're in need of a hot meal in the aftermath of a storm and everything else is closed, to use another outdated word, Waffle House will be bumping because there will be people there that are going
power
and want a hot meal, and that's the place to go. And look, the people that work at restaurants in the aftermath of a storm, you guys are heroes.
Yeah.
And let me explain why real quick.
And during a storm,
everyone that prepares food for you in the days after a storm likely have their own issues, their own problems that are storm related. And what they are doing is going to work to feed other people. So I don't care if it's somebody with the, you know, manning the cheeseburgers at McDonald's versus somebody making the waffles at Waffle House. It might seem like unappreciated work, invisible work, but you should really do your very best to be kind in the drive-through, be kind at your Waffle House, tip extra, really help people, pay it forward. I'm serious. Everything that goes into the restaurant industry, as somebody who comes from my family very much comes from the restaurant industry, there are so many people that you do not see in the aftermath of a storm that are heroes because they are feeding their community and doing so while their family is at home potentially dealing with their own set of problems. So without monologuing too hard here, please be kind, considerate, and pay it forward with anybody that provides you food in the aftermath of a storm. They're doing it. They're sacrificing time with their families to be able to provide food for you and your family.
So what's interesting, a lot of people don't know about me is I pretty much put myself through college by waiting tables and bartending.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was in the restaurant industry for 6 years, started out in high school as a dishwasher, quickly moved to, waiting tables, bartending. I worked for a hotel in Laconia, New Hampshire, central New Hampshire, where I'm from. And if anybody remembers the ice storm of 1998 up in New England, in Canada, places were without power for weeks. Okay. Ice storms are a big thing up there. And when you get, half an inch to an inch of ice on power lines, they come down, especially with wet snow and whatever. And the linemen were staying at our place because it was a big hotel. It was very sturdy. We had power. And I remember feeding the linemen, serving so many people in that scenario. And yes, they're very, very appreciative that they can get a hot meal because their power, some of them lost it for weeks. We lost power for, I believe, 28 hours, and we had 5 dogs, 3 little Yorkies and 2 German Shepherds. And so the German Shepherds, they got a lot of fur on their skin. The Yorkies are very, very small. So again, you want to keep your pets safe. But as JB was saying, you get a hot meal, you definitely want to be very, very thankful to the people that give it to you.
I'm serious.
And I did see this wobble tracker. I did. And I expect this easterly motion to continue for a little while. Remember before I said,
what makes you say that? I'm curious because, okay, everybody pay attention to the eye of the storm and you see it moving now. It almost like it's on it's not traveling northeast anymore.
No.
It is moving, directly east. So
yeah.
For several wobbles here now. So what?
It almost looked like the latest frame might have been slightly north of east. But again, the eye is going through what we talked about before, the eye wall regeneration process. And so, it tends to weaken as it goes through that process and then strengthens again as the eye becomes more well-defined. And yet again, we are seeing that eye a little bit more well-defined now, in fact, compared to, 6 hours ago. But it does. But again, if you look at the track itself is pretty much due northeast. If you look at that red line, it's due northeast. Okay. Yet it is moving, even if it's moving east northeast, which is what the current advisory states, east northeast is going to stay below that line, right? Definitely. And so I wonder how this is going to adjust with the track
at 5.
Yep. But also the forecast models have to initialize where the storm is at the time that the models initialize. Okay. So the models that are already out, right? The 12Z models that are already out aren't going to show the effects with this wobble to the south of the track. The 18Z models will pick up, okay, here's where Milton is. Now let's go from here. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's kind of like a lag. You're not going to really see the effects of the models until the next run goes out. And what it does is it's what we call it initializes on that given point where the center is. And then it kind of goes from there. Do you see what I mean?
Yep. I'm curious to see, how, 5 o'clock's update, that's going to be, it's going to be fascinating.
It is. And you know what? The track still may not go that far to the south until the models initialize on the new position, right? Because the models figure, okay, this is moving in one direction. And if it moves in this direction, here's where the models are saying, each model's, okay, it's going to be here, here, here. But then if you move that direction east 30 miles, then how are the models going to, how are they going to react to it? The models are going to start in a different place than initially starting the run before.
Let's get back to WFLA.com/report it, and we'll try to keep things moving here and checking in with Wobble Tracker and our computer models throughout the live stream. We had Trevor in Oldsmar. Trevor, I hope you and your boss, everybody makes the best decision for you and your families. Next up is going to be Stacy in Ocala.
Hi, I am in Marion County, Ocala, Florida. What will Ocala expect? I'm originally from South Florida, so I'm pretty familiar when it comes to hurricanes. Like I was in Andrew, Irma, Wilma. But what can Ocala and Marion County expect?
We got Eric.
I would definitely say the possibility
Hi,
of hurricane.
I am in Marion County.
Yep.
Sorry.
No. I would definitely say the possibility of hurricane force wind gusts over 75 miles an hour. I think, and again, that's on the given track, right? If the track moves south, you probably will see wind gusts a little bit under hurricane force and 50 to maybe 60 sustained wind for a short period of time, but definitely a lot of rain as you'll be on the northern side of the storm. You're not going to be in the northern eye wall, so you're not going to get that 12 inches of rain, but still the possibility of 6 to 8 in Ocala.
All right, so 3 more in the queue, and then we'll get back to hashtag-based questions, wobble tracker, and computer models. All of it coming up here on tracking the tropics. Next up in the queue, Jeff, you want to sit down? Okay.
On here? Okay. Okay. Oh, okay.
So you're joining or swapping?
Have to do the forecast.
Yeah, I do. I do.
Okay.
All right. Okay.
Do the forecasting. I'm here now.
Jeff Baradelli, everybody.
You're getting the inside baseball, everybody.
That's right.
I actually think it's good. I think inside baseball is good.
This is a studio and a control room all in one. There's
That's
no other backup sort of facility, of producers in a control room. I'm punching everything here. You guys are manning the weather graphics. We've got it all figured out. Let's get to the next video question, if we can. And I think that next up, stand by here, everybody. Now that Jeff is here, I'm just making a quick adjustment. And let's see here. And we've got in the queue joining us next is, I'm sorry, everybody, James from Midtown, Tampa, Florida. Let's get to James here next.
Hey, you guys. My name is James. Live in West Tampa, right off of McDowell, Kennedy area. What's the likelihood of high winds and flooding over here?
What you got, Jeff?
Well, I don't think you're going to get storm surge flooding because you're north of Kennedy or near Kennedy in the Midtown area. But the north side of the storm is going to be very top heavy with a lot of heavy rain. So we think that north of the center, there's going to be some areas that get over 10 inches of rain. So flooding, yes, but from rainfall and not from storm surge. And so I think that's a pertinent question for everybody from Tampa North and through Pinellas County too, and northeast of there. Anyone north of the center of the storm, we're going to see 10 to 15 inches of rain in a short period of time. So if you're listening from, northern Pinellas, Palm Harbor, northern Hillsborough, Lutz or Temple Terrace, Pasco around Wesley Chapel, Spring Hill, if you're listening from these areas, Lakeland or north of there, if you're very low lying, expect that you're going to have water on your block and maybe water in your house. So elevate your valuables. Anything you really need, that boxes of pictures, boxes of documents, don't think because you're not getting storm surge that you're not going to get flooding, because this is going to be a lot like Ian. Not as much rain, but the north side is going to have most of the rain. Probably 80% of the rain is going to be on the north side. And we have a high risk for excessive rainfall, which is rare. You don't get excessive rainfall outlooks from the National Weather Service. It's the National Weather Service. So anyway, point being, yes, and you're going to see the heavy rain with flooding, and then the gusts in Tampa, I think, could be up to about 110 miles an hour in Tampa. So yes, you're going to see gusty winds. And other thing I just want to mention to everybody, talked about the flooding, elevate your stuff if you're north of the storm. The other thing is that in terms of the winds, these are not the kind of winds that are going to just blow up houses. That's what happened in Michael. That's what happened in Andrew. That's not going to happen with this storm. It does not have the power to just blow down your house. So houses aren't going to collapse unless they're not built well or they're mobile homes. So the solid structure, concrete block homes are going to survive just fine. Your roof may be compromised, but the structure is going to remain intact. I just want to tell people that because they see this monster coming and they're wondering if their house is going to survive. And if it's built well, it's going to survive. It's not like a Michael or an Andrew in that, or Charlie in that way.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Next up in the queue, thank you to James from Tampa. Again, we're asking questions to Chief Meteorologist Jeff Baradelli, Meteorologist Eric Stone, joining us here on tracking the tropics. Next up, we have Olive joining us from Bradenton.
Hi, y'all. I'm coming from South Bradenton. I live in a second-story apartment with cranked windows. I am not allowed to board them. So, is there any recommendations you can give me on keeping my windows safe?
Thank you, Olive. What do we got?
No.
Right.
And she needs to leave. She
Yeah.
needs to leave. You need to leave. You're in Bradenton and your windows are those old crank windows
gosh.
and they're not allowing you to protect them. You need to go.
Yeah.
That's my answer to that. If you don't have storm windows, and Bradenton, by the way, looks like the most likely
It's
place
right
that
in
this
the
could
eye. Yeah. pretty
right
close.
across 6 hours of hurricane force winds. You are not safe in that place. You got to go.
Next up in the queue, thank you, Olive, for the question. Cassie in Lakeland, Florida. Let's listen in to Cassie.
Hey, Eric. Hey, JB. We live over in Lakeland by the hospital off Lakeland Hills. And then on the other side of us is Lake Parker. And I'm trying to convince my husband to help me board up these windows, but he says it's not a big deal and that it's nothing we should be concerned about. Just curious what your consensus is as far as the wind gusts in Lakeland and if boarding up should be a priority or not.
Well, the baby,
Thanks, guys.
the baby agrees. As soon as she said the husband doesn't want to board the window, baby started crying and said, "Oh no, you have to do it."
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we're looking at the potential of a Category 2 right over Lakeland. I mean, the eye is very, very close. Wind gusts well over 100 miles an hour. I would definitely be boarding those windows up.
Yeah, I agree with that, Eric. You got better safe than sorry. We might see wind gusts close to 90, maybe 100 miles an hour there.
Yeah. So one of the graph versions was showing that over 100.
I'd like to point out something really quickly, and we're going to try to put this in the comment section. Yesterday, we had a question. I don't remember which one of you was on for this. I think it was you, Eric. Someone said, I'm going to ask a question that everyone's thinking about, but I have the bravery to ask about.
Yeah.
Yes. So the question was, Jeff, I don't know if you were on the stream for this moment.
No, he wasn't.
We had a video caller on Report It that said, if I'm in the eye, is it safe for me to go outside of my house and see the Coliseum affect the eye itself?
It's interesting. And I heard Eric's answer, and I think it's okay, but let me tell you why it's dangerous. We have these mesovortices on the edges of the eye sometimes. And we see that often. Those mesovortices can, in a heartbeat, change your weather from perfectly calm and still to wow, big, like almost like a tornado comes through on the edge of the eye. So it's really dangerous to do it, and it's not recommended you do, but I get it. People are going to do it. Go out for 30 seconds. If you're going to do it, 30 seconds and come back in. I remember Eric saying that yesterday, but we can see the mesovortices sometimes on radar where these little twists embedded in the eye wall, and it makes it really precarious. So just be careful if you're going to do it. Okay.
We put a link in the comment section to our eye viewing safety story. We actually went beyond the expertise of just the Max Fender 8 weather team and Eric answering that question. We actually talked to damage experts in the area. I think some other experts in the area. Nathaniel Rodriguez is the one who worked on that story, and it is currently up on WFLA.com. We just put the link to that story. So if you want more on eye viewing safety, it's on our website. We have an article on it. On
and the eye's going to really pass through kind of overnight. At least that's what it's looking like right now. So there's really not much to see if it's dark outside.
Yeah, that's another good point. The real-time wobble tracker
still
on WFLA.com. Is this just, Jeff, is this just kind of jetting east right now?
It is. I honestly, I take all this stuff with a grain of salt, and still at some point it's going to be picked up by the trough. It still hasn't felt the jet stream. It still hasn't felt the trough yet. At some point it will. We'll see. Obviously, the further east and south it goes, the better off we are. But I don't want to read too much into this yet because it's so far out. There's so many things that can change between now and then. I get it. We're following every wobble. I'm the guy who invented the wobble tracker. I think it's really important.
You got to own it.
I do. I'm owning it. But I just don't think the wobbles at this very much. Look, keep watching it. Keep clicking on it, because the truth really is that it will matter in the end to some degree, but I'm not ready to make any determinations based upon these wobbles this far out.
As time progresses, these wobbles will be more and more important.
That's right.
Yesterday, the wobbles were, irrelevant. Today, maybe a little bit here and there, but then once we see it tomorrow, that's when it's really going to determine, hey, is this thing moving further south?
What
or-
time tomorrow? If you're a Wobble Tracker follower on WFLA.com, if you're one of our viewers that is following it in real time,
Do we have a fan club for the Wobble
I
Tracker?
think there
I
might
am.
be a
Okay.
fan
All
club.
right. Hey,
I'm the
Eric is
I'm
the president. Okay.
Yeah.
Can I get
I love
a hand raised emoji in our comment section if you have visited the Wobble Tracker on WFLA.com, or just like a thumbs up or a hand raise kind
Every
of thing? I'm
time you
curious.
visit the Wobble Tracker, I get a nickel.
That's why you're
Wait,
so
wait.
rich.
So
If I-
that's that. It all
if I
makes
got a
sense.
nickel for every time someone visited the Wobble Tracker, I'd be a rich man. You've
you
heard
would
that
be
before.
you'd be you probably wouldn't be here.
I'd be in Tahiti.
yeah,
I'd be in Tahiti.
Yeah.
So listen, on a somewhat serious note, Eric, I have to leave at 3:30
Okay.
to start getting ready for the 4:00 show.
Okay.
So,
So
if you
why
want
don't
to
I
switch
why don't
places
I
with
start
me,
doing graphics?
yeah, because I'm
and-
gonna have to have you
'cause
back in that
I still
seat in
got
about
some time.
half hour. Okay.
All right.
All right.
sounds-
Thank
So can you guys switch
We're
seats?
switching.
Yeah,
we're
yeah.
switching.
So
I'm gonna sit there.
I think I put 3 on here.
Yep. That's.
So do you
what
want to
we
change that back to 1?
No, I'm good. Oh,
But-
because
but
you
the-
gotta.
The view thing is still going to be off. because
I
this
think
is way
Rebecca.
to
I think
three.
Rebecca. It's okay. It's okay. Let's just leave it where it is. Rebecca, he needs to make the forecast. Okay. All right. Okay.
On Slider Cam.
All right.
Welcome back to the Stream Center. Real-time Wobble Tracker streaming on WFLA.com. We're now taking questions with our hashtag system, hashtag Hey Jeff, and
here I am.
hashtag Hey Jay.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.